We think we know his name, Genghis Khan. The name itself sounds like a war cry, a name synonymous with brutal conquest, thundering hordes, and pyramids of skulls. We see him as the ultimate barbarian, the savage who swept out of the desolate plains of Mongolia to burn cities and slaughter millions. It's a simple, terrifying image. But what if that image is a carefully crafted lie? A ghost story told by his enemies to hide a far more complex and shocking truth? What if the greatest conqueror in history was not born a conqueror at all, but an outcast, a slave, a boy who had nothing and was betrayed by everyone? This is not the story of a monster born of legend. It is the story of a man who forged a new world in the fires of his own personal hell. A man who unified a scattered people, codified laws, and created an empire that connected East and West like never before. The story you know is about the wave of destruction. The real story is about the man who controlled the storm and the secrets he took to his hidden grave. We are about to dismantle the myth and reveal the man. Are you ready to discover the real Genghis Khan? Subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear his name? To understand the man, you must first understand his world. The Mongolian steppe in the mid-12th century was not a nation. It was a chaotic, blood-soaked battlefield. Dozens of nomadic tribes and clans, like the Tatars, Merkits, and Karatis, were locked in a perpetual cycle of warfare, raiding each other for horses, women, and resources. Alliances were fragile, written in sand and easily washed away by blood. Betrayal was a season. In this brutal landscape, your only loyalty was to your clan, and your only security was the strength of your own arm. It was a world without central authority, without written law, governed only by tradition and the sharp edge of a sword. Into this world, around the year 1162, a boy was born, named Temujin. He was the son of Yesugei, a minor chieftain of the Borjigin clan, a man respected enough to have forged alliances. Legend says the boy was born clutching a clot of blood in his right fist, a sign, the shamans whispered, that he was destined for greatness. For a brief time, his life followed the established order. He had a noble lineage, and at the age of 9, as was custom, he was betrothed to a girl named Berta, a union designed to forge a powerful alliance for his clan. His world, while violent, had a structure. It had rules. It seemed for a moment that his path was set. That illusion of order was about to be annihilated. While returning home from delivering his son to his future bride's family, Temujin's father, Yesugei, was murdered, poisoned at a banquet by members of the rival Tatar clan. The news was a death sentence. Without its leader, Yesugei's clan saw his family not as a legacy to be protected, but as a burden to be discarded. In a stunning act of cruelty, the clan abandoned them all. Temujin, his mother Hoelun, and his siblings were cast out, left to fend for themselves on the unforgiving steppe. They went from being nomadic nobility to the lowest of outcasts, forced to survive by eating wild roots and hunting for rats. Humiliation and starvation became their daily bread. It was in this crucible of suffering that the boy Temujin was forged into a leader. The harsh reality of his new life taught him that old loyalties were worthless and survival was the only law. This lesson was cemented in an act of shocking brutality. In a dispute over a fish, a teenage Temujin hunted down and killed his own half-brother, Bektar, establishing his position as the head of the desperate, broken family. The world had shown him no mercy, and he would learn to show none in return. The chaos only escalated. Soon after he married his betrothed, Berta, her camp was raided by the rival Merkit tribe, and she was kidnapped. A brutal act of revenge for a raid his own mother had been a victim of a generation earlier. Temujin was powerless, an outcast with no warriors to command. His world was in ashes. To get his wife back, he would have to crawl back to the very system of alliances that had betrayed him and build an army from nothing but sheer force of will. The story of the 12th century steppe is written in the biography of one man's struggle. Temujin's journey from a powerless exile to the master of Mongolia was not a simple conquest. It was a revolution in human relationships, played out through intense personal bonds and violent betrayals. To save his wife Berta, he had to beg for help. He approached Togrul, the powerful Khan of the Karat tribe, and his late father's Anda, or sworn blood brother. He also turned to a childhood friend, a charismatic young nobleman named Jamuka, with whom he had also sworn the sacred Anda oath. Together, they raised an army, crushed the Merkits, and rescued Berta. Temujin had won, but he had also set in motion a conflict that would define his life. As followers flocked to his banner, drawn by his generosity and charisma, a rift grew between him and Jamuka. They were two different visions of leadership. Jamuka believed in the old ways, that power belonged to the aristocracy, to those born of noble blood. Temujin, the outcast, believed in a radical new idea, meritocracy. He promoted men based on skill and loyalty, not their lineage. Shepherds and the sons of blacksmiths could become generals in his army if they proved their worth. This philosophy was an existential threat to the old order that Jamuka represented. Their friendship curdled into a bitter rivalry, plunging the steppe into a civil war between two blood brothers. Even his alliance with Togrul, his father figure, shattered. Seeing Temujin's rising power, Togrul betrayed him, launching a surprise attack that nearly destroyed him. But Temujin survived, regrouped, and returned to crush the Karat army. He had learned the ultimate lesson. The old bonds of tribe and even sworn brotherhood were chains. To build something new, he would have to break them all. The final, world-shattering escalation was not a single battle, but a single idea. After years of civil war, after defeating Togrul and finally capturing and executing his childhood friend and ultimate rival, Jamuka, Temujin stood as the undisputed master of the steppe. In 1206, he summoned all the tribes of Mongolia to a great assembly, a Kurultai. There, on the banks of the Onon River, the outcast boy was given a new name, Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. And then he committed his greatest, most revolutionary act of destruction. He didn't just conquer the old tribes, he erased them. In a move of breathtaking political genius, he completely dismantled the ancient clan structure that had fueled centuries of conflict. He reorganized his entire people into a new system based on military units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. Men from different, once warring tribes were now forced to serve together in the same unit. Their old identities dissolved. Their loyalty was no longer to a clan, but to their commander, and ultimately to the Khan himself. He instituted a new, unshakable law code, the Yasa, which made theft, feuding, and the selling of women capital crimes. He had created something the world had never seen, a unified, disciplined nation forged from 100 warring factions. And at its heart was the most terrifyingly efficient military machine in history. Having brought order to his own world through absolute control, he turned his gaze outward. When a caravan of his envoys and merchants was murdered by the governor of a city in the powerful Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis Khan unleashed his new creation upon the world. The invasion was not just a war, It was an apocalypse. The great Silk Road cities of Bukhara, Samarkand, and Nishapur, centers of learning and wealth, were not just conquered, they were systematically obliterated, their populations massacred by the millions in a calculated campaign of psychological terror. The boy who had been abandoned by his tribe now commanded an army that would make the world tremble. The legacy of Genghis Khan is a paradox that haunts history to this day. To much of the world, particularly in Persia and Russia, his name remains a byword for barbarism, the destroyer who was responsible for the deaths of an estimated 40 million people, so many that the wave of depopulation actually cooled the planet, removing 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere. Yet, this is only half the story. The man who unleashed this terror was also one of history's great builders. The empire he founded became the largest contiguous land empire ever known, a territory stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. His violent unification created a century of stability known as the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol Peace. Under this peace, the Silk Road was reborn. For the first time, trade, ideas, technologies like gunpowder, paper, and the compass, and culture could flow freely and safely between China, the Islamic world, and Europe. He created the Yam, a sophisticated postal relay system that was the Pony Express of its day, allowing messages and goods to travel with unprecedented speed. In his own empire, he decreed universal religious tolerance, organized formal debates between Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists, and promoted literacy by ordering the creation of a Mongol script. He built his empire on a foundation of meritocracy and law, concepts that were revolutionary for his time. He is the ancestor of an estimated 16 million men alive today, a genetic legacy as vast as his empire, but his greatest secret remains hidden. Upon his death in 1227, he was buried in an unmarked grave, its location kept so secret that every soldier and slave involved in the funeral procession was killed to protect it. To this day, the tomb of the man who conquered the world has never been found. So, who was he? The merciless butcher of nations or the visionary father of globalization? Perhaps the most shocking truth is that he was both. Which of his legacies do you find more powerful? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the hidden truths of the past.